the president of Estonia, the world's most advanced digital society. Good morning.
Good morning, Kenya.
It's good to have you in the studio. Welcome to the Situation Room. This is where we have Kenya's biggest conversations. And we're glad that you have joined us to have this conversation with us. How do you say good hello in Estonian?
I am going to assassinate the language completely, but Your Excellency, bear with me. I wrote it down, and I hope I can read it correctly. Kuidas sul läheb?
Thank you, Karibu sana. It goes really well.
Kuidas sul läheb?
I think you have used this Google Translate and an audio version.
Yes,
there.
I actually listened to that Google Translator.
Exactly.
A number of times.
Yes, because I can recognize the intonation of Google Estonian.
Oh.
But it was good, very natural.
Thank you.
So how would you say it?
Exactly the same way. Kuidas sul läheb? But I would say, kuidas sul läheb?
Oh, kuidas sul läheb?
Quicker.
Yes.
Okay.
But thank you for having me, and I see Kenya is doing great, and I really believe that we can do good things together. You started from our digital prowess, and I believe that this country has so much potential to leapfrog with the help of technologies.
Indeed. We shall be getting to that conversation, and you'll tell us how you got to where you are right now as a country. You're in the country for a couple of days. What brings you to Kenya?
Actually, it's my last state visit while in office as a president of the Republic of Estonia, and it's very fitting that it comes to an African country, because I was the one who led the Estonian campaign for United Nations Security Council, and I really fell in love with this continent while we were doing it. And it obviously became clear to us that Estonia, despite that we are 1 million people and well, just exited the middle-income countries rank, we are now a lower-level rich country, but we can contribute to the development of this continent by using our own example, because, 30 years ago, Estonia regained its independence. We were occupied by the Soviet Union, and then we regained our independence, and an average salary then was about $30 per month. Now it's 1,500 euros per month. And we have, in these 30 years, we have done things differently. And I believe this is maybe the message what we can really share with our brothers and sisters here in Africa, that if people come and tell you that if you do these things which we did before you, then you will catch up. I was already 20 years ago, when I was advising Prime Minister of Estonia, I was wondering, if I do what you did and do it 30 years, 40 years later, how on earth am I going to catch up? No way. So you have to do things your own way, differently, to find leapfrogging opportunities. And I see here this kind of thinking on the whole continent, particularly if I look at the African Union, which is really ready to take responsibility for the development of the 4 freedoms, the free movement of people, capital in Africa, and also the digital development. I really appreciate what I'm seeing in Africa and also here in Kenya. That's why.
Your Excellency, take us back 30 years to where you're saying this is where Estonia basically just started putting on into gear 6, into gear 7. Now you're, I think, on 15th gear. But just take us back to those 30 years ago. How was Estonia? What was happening in the country?
It was a country where people didn't have bank accounts, where people didn't pay taxes, because in Soviet Union then they didn't pay your salary, therefore you didn't pay taxes. It was a country which had lost all its economic connections because they were, forged towards Soviet Union. But this ecosystem disappeared. It was a country which regained its independence and which realized it has to become part of the multilateral free world to protect this independence. So rule of law, institutions which have their own right to operate in the society, all this needed to be created. And then we set out to do it. And Estonian people, when we regained independence, we wanted to do everything differently than how it had been under the occupation, which obviously meant that, personal freedoms and personal rights became extremely important in Estonia. Our constitution is very strong on all that. And this actually unleashed also the economic potential, because, only free people are truly creative. You cannot be creative in business if you're not free. If you're afraid that somebody takes your business away or treats your business differently because, you are not friend with the political elite or something. And this way we started step by step. And then we realized that our people expect government services, but we do not have government offices. But we also noticed that private companies already did everything on intranet and online. And for example, banking went online in Estonia in 1994 because banks had the same problem. Estonians were very poor. And they live far from each other. We are not a densely populated place, so it didn't pay off to have bank offices. So they offered online services. And the government was watching and said, but we want also to do the same way. First online service was tax office. Nobody wants to see the taxman. Estonians have never seen a taxman because you do it online.
Yeah.
And we realized this is our way forward. And what we really didn't realize was that we are the only ones also in Europe who think this way. We thought, in a couple of years' time, everybody would be doing what we are doing. Because in Estonia, we don't separate the world into private sector and the government. And we do not expect government to provide a lower level of service than is private sector. Frankly speaking, we didn't know this is a normality in many countries. And we were very astonished when we started to put out public services online. And everybody was like, how are you doing it? We said exactly like Amazon or Google or newspapers exactly the same way. Why are you asking? And indeed, we didn't think it will not be the same in every country. We expected everybody to do the same. And now they are doing the same, but it took 20 years.
20 years is not a long time, though, Your Excellency. If you look 20, 30 years, if anybody looks at that situation, would say that it looks like there was a lot of work that was done in a very short period of time. What are some of the other ingredients that were applied to this process?
Yeah, that's exactly. Estonians think 20 years is extremely long time because we've only regained independence 30 years ago. So we think that in 20 years, it's a generation. You can grow a digital generation. And this is exactly what I think is now going to happen in many African countries, including Kenya. You are ready, and your president says you want to go also the same way. Then you have to bring up a digital generation, register every baby's birth by mobile phone, offer them vaccination over online. This way you will also, grow your national population registry. You can attach all services to it. This can be done, and it takes about 10 years. And your people really realize it's really comfortable that you don't have to go and queue in offices. It's such a carrot for society to change that it's so much more comfortable. And also digital offers you not only, this kind of digital services, but I give you a really concrete example. Kenyan Water Fund is just now, when we are talking here, discussing with one Estonian company, Space Trip, about the project where it's a pilot. 10,000 homes in Nairobi will have kind of water purification system, which is local, linked to a household, but controlled electronically, totally electronically handled, managed to make Nairobi River cleaner. And this is only a pilot. But you can do it, far easier than you would if you build a huge, sewage management plant. It takes a long time to plan and then to build, and the capital cost is huge. But you go little by little, and you can add households every day. And suddenly you will have a system which will actually make your river cleaner. And this way, only in connecting everything digitally, you can make dispersed systems act like previously we were used to having a big system. The same in energy, for example, in electricity grids. You don't need anymore a big plant. You can have small solar systems with a little bit of a cells, and it works. So you can kind of cut the initial capital cost very much by using digital connection of many, thousands small systems. And this Space Trip project, I believe, this is a really nice example.
Your Excellency, you speak well of our country, and we thank you. Given that Kenya is